Arsenal take on Aston Villa in the Premier League at the Emirates, and we are back. Now, this is following our 2-2 draw to Bayern, also at the Emirates, so we haven't had to do any travelling, which is good. But I know that a lot of Arsenal fans can and will feel very disappointed by that result against Bayern, because a lot of us were hoping for a win, some of us even expecting a win, including myself. And it is definitely a tough one to take, but we have to move on because Villa is going to be a huge game, and we have to win because even though we drew to Bayern at home in the Champions League, we've won every home game in 2024 in the Premier League. We have. We've only dropped points in the league once, which was our draw away to City, so we are in a red-hot form, and hopefully that can continue. Now, Aston Villa are also fighting for top four. They just went ahead of Spurs after their embarrassing 4-0 defeat to Newcastle. How good. We love to see Tottenham lose. But, yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough game because Villa are a very good side. Obviously, last time we played them, it was a 1-0 loss, but I'll get to that in the head-to-head. So this is going to be my match preview. Starting off, I'm going to just talk about the team's form. As you can see, Arsenal are in amazing form. We have not lost a game in our last 5, with a draw against Bayern, a draw against City, and then wins against Brighton, Luton, and Brentford, I think. I don't have the form right in front of me. But if I was to take a look at Aston Villa's form, because I do not know what kind of form they've been at off the top of my head, I've got it right here. They obviously are coming off their 1-0 win against Lille in the Conference League at home. Sorry, 2-1 win, which is definitely a good result for them. They dropped points in their last home game in the league to Brentford, got battered by City, beat Wolves 2-0, and drew 1-1 to West Ham. So, very mixed bag of forms from Villa, 2 wins, 2 draws, and a loss. So they haven't actually been at their best lately. Definitely dropping points to Brentford, especially when they were 3-1 up, is a very disappointing result. But that does not mean that we should not worry about them, because they are obviously a very good side that are pushing for top 4. They may get top 4. They look like they are in position to get top 4. It's just whether or not we will be able to keep our composure, because there would definitely be a mentality shift from the Bayern game. I know that the players will also feel that it's a bit of a disappointing result, but we have to forget all about that because this is a different competition. It's the Premier League, and we've been very good in the Premier League. And one thing I have noticed is, as of late, we have been recovering from losses a lot better. Obviously, we had that poor run of form where we lost 3 games in a row at the back end of last year. And since then, we've been in excellent form. We recovered very well from the Porto loss away from home. I think after that game, I believe it was the 4-1 win over Newcastle, which is definitely good for us. So hopefully, we didn't even lose to Bayern, we just drew, but hopefully we can forget all about that and beat Villa easily. I'm actually quite confident about this game. I will get to the predictions at the end. But yeah, just looking at form, we are definitely in better form. We have a better team overall. And yeah, if we look at the form, it definitely puts us in a better position than them. Okay, now let's take a look at the head-to-head record between the two teams. Obviously, our game earlier in the season, the only time that we have played them in the season, we haven't matched up against them in any cups or anything, but it was our 1-0 loss at Villa Park. Now, we can talk about, the controversy in that game. Arsenal arguably should have been awarded 2 penalties, but at the end of the day, we lost that game on our own accord. We couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. It was a rare instance where we didn't end up scoring a goal, which is obviously disappointing. But before that, our form against Villa was actually decent. If we look at our last 5 games, including that one, the 4 games before that were all wins. Obviously, we were the first team to win. We were the last team to win at Villa Park for a solid chunk of the season. Villa went on that incredible winning run at home following the game last season where we beat them 4-2. even though it was 4-2, it was a very close game and we were able to score 2 late goals. There was obviously the 2-1 win at the Emirates that season, which is the last time we played them at the Emirates, when Douglas Luiz scored from a corner directly, and then Martinelli scored the winner a couple minutes later. We had a 1-0 win at Villa Park, and then our furthest result was a 3-1 win at the Emirates. So yeah, in terms of head-to-head runs as of late, we've been good. Four wins and a loss. We seem to know how to beat them at the Emirates. If I check, the last time that we didn't beat Villa at the Emirates was in November of 2020. That's right, when we lost 3-0 and Saka had an own goal. Yeah, not very good for him, but yeah, hopefully today will be like those other games where we're able to win, and I'm hoping it's a comfortable win, because if it is, it'll just be really good for the team. So yeah, we definitely do have the upper hand in terms of the head-to-head situation. But Villa are obviously a much different team than they were in those other games, and in their time under Emery, we have beaten them, but they have definitely been getting better in terms of against us and just in terms of the football club in general. Now for the injury situations. Now, I've just got my injury report here. It could be very different to what it ends up being. There might be certain injuries that aren't included, but I'll just go over it in general. Villa are actually very handicapped, which could definitely go our way. They've got quite a lot of players out with injuries. But for us, it's really only Timber. Timber isn't expected to come back for a few more weeks. I'm hoping that he will make a recovery soon, because it would just be amazing to have him in the team. But other than that, pretty much everyone is fit, unless there were any injuries. We saw, Saka was limping at one point against Bayern. But other than that, it seems that most of Arsenal's situation in terms of injuries is good. If we look at Villa, though, they've got a lot going on in terms of injuries. Kamara is a big one. He's a great player for them, but he'll be out until at least October, which is a big blow for them. Longley is not likely to play. Ramsey has been ruled out. Matty Cash is unlikely, and the biggest one, I think, obviously Mings as well, but out for the season, but the biggest one, in my opinion, is Douglas Luiz. He's not injured, he's suspended because against Brentford, he picked up a 10th yellow card, which means he gets a 2-match ban. I'm not sure who Villa play next. I think it's can't even remember. I know they play Liverpool soon, but I don't think it's Liverpool. But yeah, that'll be a big blow for them, because Douglas Luiz, he's an excellent player. He's been linked actually to Arsenal. Apparently, Villa are interested to offload him, and one of the teams that were talked about is Arsenal. But they apparently want a fee of £80 million, which he's a great player, but yeah, he's not worth £80 million. So if that's what they want, I don't think we should go anywhere close to it. But this isn't about transfers. This is about the game. So yeah, clearly in terms of injuries, we have the upper hand. Everything is pointing to an Arsenal win, but they are a top 4 side, and we are coming off an unfortunate result. We both played midweek. They played more recently than us, which is definitely another thing that goes in our favour. So it definitely is looking towards an Arsenal win, which is great. I'm actually very stuck in terms of the 11 that I think we should field. I think that, most players should get to play, and I saw a lot of people discussing on whether or not certain players should be rested in terms of the Bayern game in midweek. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that Arteta should field the best possible 11 for this game. Now, I'm not saying that that is our best 11, which I don't even know what our best 11 is. But obviously we've got pretty much everyone back from injury, meaning that there will be competition for positions. So it's more just about who I think would be best suited for this game. So I'm going to go through it. Obviously, David Raya in goal, no question about that. Saliba, Gabriel, and Ben White all keep their spots, obviously, but the left-back position, Kivior does not deserve to start. I think he's just not up to it. He didn't really have many, huge tests. He's been in great form, obviously, but that Bayern game really showed where he's at. At the end of the day, he's not a left back. He was forced essentially to play in a role that he shouldn't be. So you can't really blame him, but yeah, he's just not up to it. My decision at left back, I think Arteta's probably going to go with Zinchenko. But if I had to pick, I would choose Tomiyasu. Don't know why he didn't even feature against Bayern. Makes absolutely no sense. But I think that he should feature at left back for Arsenal tonight. I would just much prefer to see him in the team than Zinchenko because he's much more defensively solid. I think he is, until Timber gets back, because Timber was looking great, but obviously we don't know about him. He hasn't played enough. At the moment, Tomiyasu is our best left back. He is. Like, there's no one else that takes that spot over him. In midfield, I feel like we should go Partey because without Douglas Luiz, I feel like the Villa will be lacking a bit of physicality, and Thomas Partey could really dominate that. But I get if Arteta wants to go Jorginho, I just think he should pick Partey. Declan Rice and Odegaard both get into the team. I would like to see Odegaard maybe rested at some point. We don't really have many opportunities, but he's just been playing so much football. He was one of the few players that featured from the start of the Luton game where we rested a lot, where we did a lot of rotating, and his work rate is insane. So obviously not for this game, but hopefully if we're winning easily, he can get subbed off early. I'd love to see him come off and get a bit of a rest. And then for the attack's the difficult part. Saka's a shoo-in. We don't really have anyone else to back him up. And then the other two spots, obviously Martinelli and Havertz were the two that started. But it's interesting because Jesus and Trossard both played good enough to get starting roles. So they could play, but I think that we should keep it the same. I reckon our attack should stay the same. We should have Martinelli and Havertz as our two other forwards because I just think that Trossard is such a lethal threat off the bench and he could definitely be used. He has scored more goals as a substitute than any other player in Europe's top 5 leagues. So if we need him to come off the bench and nick a goal, he definitely could. And Jesus, obviously there's injury concerns with him, so it would make sense to rest him for midweek. I know I said I want us to use up our first choice team, but this isn't just about resting him. He is a special case because of the injuries. So if he could have a cameo and then potentially start against Bayern next week or in midweek, I would definitely be happy with that. So that is what I think we should use as a team. But there should definitely be quite a bit of rotating, especially if it ends up being a comfortable win, which odds are it probably won't be. How will both teams approach the game? I think it'll be very similar to the last game. I think Villa will sit off a little bit. They usually do have quite a bit of possession, I think, but against the other, high possession teams, they usually like to drop back. So I definitely do think they'll sit off the ball quite a bit. It'll be like the last game. We had more percentage. We had 1.4 XG compared to 0.5. So we will definitely be in the driver's seat. The only thing is Villa will take their chances. And we saw that John McGinn score in the 7th minute, pretty much their first chance of the game. And they will take their chances, so our defence will need to be alert, but I trust the defence. Even though they weren't very good in the first half against Bayern Munich, they're still the best defence in the Premier League. They've still only conceded 4 league goals this calendar year. 4 league goals. Spurs did that in a day. In 90 minutes, Tottenham conceded the same amount of league goals as we've conceded for 3.5 months. That is insanity. But yeah, I think it'll just be very similar to the last game. Villa will sit off. We'll get a lot of the ball. We just have to take our chances. We have to put the ball in the back of the net enough. And I don't really see us keeping a clean sheet against this team. It could obviously happen, but yeah, they've just got such good attacking threats like, Ollie Watkins, Leon Bailey, just great players that can get goals. Moussa Diaby as well. And I think that they will definitely score, but they've had a lot of defensive troubles and they've got some injuries, I believe, to their defense. They look like they had a pretty depleted defense against Brentford. They held 3 to a Brentford team that really hasn't been playing very well. But it seems like most of their defense is a fit, except for, I think, Matty Cash, I think it was. So yeah, and I don't rate Matty Cash. I think he's very overrated. But yeah, that is how I think both teams will approach the game. And the way we win is simply by converting our opportunities, which we've been getting a lot better at. We've been scoring goals for fun this year. And hopefully that can continue, unlike the last game where we didn't even score. And finally, we got to end this video with the predictions. I'm going into this game very confident. As I said, Villa are definitely a huge threat. Sorry. That's my mate on WhatsApp. I think that Villa will definitely be a huge threat, but we can neutralise them. If Villa are actually a really good matchup to take on this Arsenal team. So I'm going to go bold. Last time we had a poor result in the Champions League, we won 4-1 at the Emirates against a good team that we were expected to maybe drop points to. A team that we lost 1-0 away from home and probably shouldn't have. Very huge similarities. So I'm going to go 4-1 Arsenal. Yep, 4-1 Arsenal. It's very ambitious. I don't care. I think that this team is 100% good enough to do that. And if Spurs can put 4 past Villa at their home, then we can most certainly do it with the form that our attackers are all in. Goals from Saka, Havertz. No, I'm going to say a brace from Martinelli. Yep, I'm going really ambitious. Another goal from Saliba and Saka. That's my prediction. Yeah. And then the Villa goal, I'll just be boring and go Watkins. So that is how I think the game will go. Hopefully I'm right. Even if I'm not, hopefully we get the win. Come on, you Gunners. Got to change into my Arsenal shirt.